All right, we are live on a Tuesday. It is open season. You know the program. We've been off for a month now. Can you believe it? It's been 4 weeks, but we're back at it. I'm your host, Billy Allen. We've got Justin Lane, Alex Tordai, and Frankie Bradica. We've got a lot to toss around tonight. The NBA season is upon us, and we'll be making some predictions there. The Patriots, their season's hanging on by a thread as Brady and the Bucks go to 8-5, and the Bills are actually looking somewhat legit. But Mahomes and the Chiefs pull another comeback win. Mahomes looks like he's going to throw for 5,000 yards again and probably win the MVP. Seattle dismantled the Jets, and they're looking like they're going to not win a game. Who's everyone's MVP pick through Week 14? Guys, welcome back. How do we start out? Patriots losing and have a 6% chance, guys, to make the playoffs. Almost mathematically out of it, but hanging on by a thread as Baltimore kind of put the nail in the coffin last night with their win. And the Patriots not looking so good as they suffer their 7th defeat. They get smoked by the LA Rams last Thursday. Are we doing post-mortem on the Pats? What do you guys want to start it out with?
Yeah. Since we took this break, Baker Mayfield looks somewhat of an MVP candidate, and Cam Newton looks like a bottom third of the NFL quarterback. It was great to see them beat the Cardinals. I don't think Cam had a lot to do with that. I just want to say one thing, and I'll pass it off to the other guys. I feel like Josh McDaniels this year has gotten so much worse at play calling. And I think over the past couple of years, it's been getting that way. But this year, it's just give the ball to Harris. Run the ball. Why are we doing shotgun with Cam Newton when he cannot complete a pass over 5 yards? It's very frustrating. Glad the season's almost over.
I've progressively hated McDaniels' play calling for years, but I think this year he's been fine. I think his play calling inside the 10-yard line has been atrocious, and that's where a lot of our shortfalls have been, so it's been highlighted. But I think he's done a relatively decent job. I think when our offensive line was healthy and Cam was healthy, and Cam will never stay healthy, that's the problem. But when he was healthy and our line was healthy, we looked like I thought we would. We were an exciting, well, not exciting. We were a very interesting offense to watch, and it moved the ball. And since Cam is breaking down, our offensive line is broken down. And apparently COVID struck us, even though it's only struck about 6 other teams. You thought we'd have that buttoned up, and we didn't. And the reason it's post-mortem is because everybody else in the AFC seems to be solidifying, as we seem to be on the downside.
Yeah, I mean, we're done. It's over. The dynasty's at its end. I don't think we're ever going to recover from losing Brady. I think that Brady, buoyed not only McDaniels, but also Belichick all these years.
Ridiculous.
We will be so lucky to ever be a contender again. We were blessed. It's been a great run. This isn't the Los Angeles Lakers, continuing to find talent. Guys want to go and play here. Like this was people wanted to go and play with Tom Brady. This is the Bulls, and we're seeing the end of the Bulls dynasty, and that's what's happening to the Patriots. We're in for a rude awakening these next few years, guys. It's been a good run. But I just don't see us building back up to a Super Bowl level for a long time unless we get another stud quarterback. And this might be the draft to do it if we're a mediocre team, because there's about 5 or 6 quarterbacks who are projected as potential first-round picks. So we'll see. Maybe they fall in love with one and take one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they ran it back with Cam just to prove a point. Please, God, don't do it, but please.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. That's pretty much the last thing I want to see them do is bring back Cam. But you almost hear whispers of it around Foxborough with him having somewhat familiarity with the offense. I mean, in my mind, he's got familiarity throwing like 5 touchdowns and like 9 picks. It's like, I don't understand. I'd rather bring in any other quarterback and assume they could do that. But maybe he comes back in a backup role. Or maybe they actually roll the dice and take a young quarterback. What do you guys think is the most likely thing? Do you think they take a vet? For my money, I think Belichick is most likely going to bring in one of these vets. Like, I'm not saying a Mariota type, but like something like that. I feel like we're going to almost find one of those guys again. Maybe they don't go bargain shopping to the degree that they did this year, where they spent $1.5 million on the quarterback position. Maybe they spend like 5 to 7, but I still don't see them breaking the bank and spending like 20 million on a quarterback. What do you guys think is going to be the succession plan?
So first things first, what Alex said is true at the end of a dynasty, but I will say the end of the Bulls dynasty happened when Phil Jackson left and that team went away. Bill Belichick is still here. This season has been a disappointment, obviously, but I would like to see any of these coaches with these elite quarterbacks coach this team and make it somewhat respectable. I mean, let's face it, guys. This team is the worst team probably since the pre-Parcells era. Talent-wise, it's awful. But in terms of the draft, I don't want them to draft a quarterback in the first round, based on where they're going to be drafting. I wanted them to tank, and clearly they're not going to. So we're going to be drafting in the middle of the first round. I say you get a linebacker. That would be nice. Stay away from the offensive talent. Get better. We need a linebacker or someone that can be a great defensive lineman. We do not need a quarterback. I know everyone wanted Andy Dalton. Well, Andy Dalton has elite talent around him, and he sucks. I'd like to see what he could do here. Mariota, he's getting $7 million, not doing anything. I'm just saying, I don't know what's going to happen. But one thing to keep out for is if the Jets get the quarterback from Clemson, what are they going to do with Sam Darnold? Because clearly it's going to be the same thing with the Cardinals a couple of years ago. They're obviously not going to keep both. So Sam Darnold, that could be something to look at.
I think that's best case scenario, but I don't see the Jets. That's a great idea, but I don't see the Jets necessarily playing ball and giving Bill Belichick Sam Darnold. How likely do you think that would be that the Jets actually do that?
But who else is going to trade for him? All these teams, like the Jaguars, are going to go after probably the kid from Ohio State. I don't know how many teams out there are looking for the next quarterback per se. And the Patriots could offer a first-round pick, maybe second-round pick, and I don't know. But it's just something to keep in mind because the Jets are going to probably go winless this year, and they're going to take him.
Yeah, you bring up the Jaguars, and they actually have a quarterback who has better numbers than Sam Darnold. I mean, do you think there's any chance that the Patriots would take a chance on a guy like Gardner Minshew? You look at his numbers, they're not as bad for the talent that he's playing with. And he may be a guy that you may be able to get on the cheap because obviously the Jaguars are probably going to look to start new with a quarterback. I think there's a lot of interesting possibilities. And I just feel like this whole time we've thought, the Pats' plan can't be to just take Cam Newton at $1.5 million. There's got to be a more complex plan, in the wings here. And especially now that Bill Belichick's had a year of Cam Newton sitting there.
Billy, that's brilliant, and I wish I'm the one who came up with it. Genuinely, I would love to see us take Gardner Minshew because as you all know, I'm a fan of professional middle fingers, and that'd be a good one. I think Bill could win 8 to 10 games with Gardner Minshew. I'd hate to see it happen as a consumer of Patriots history and like a fan of the team. I don't prefer that, not at all. But I'd love to see Bill do it because it's a Bill move. That's a very Bill move, and that's why that's a great take. Or great suggestion, rather.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it happen. Bill is a wild card. Bill's going to do whatever Bill wants. He's earned the right to do it. Again, I feel like Brady's buoyed this dynasty. And if I'm the Patriots, I think the answer is simple. The articles write themselves. The media will have a field day with it. I think you go for Carson Wentz. I think you trade your first round pick to the Eagles for Carson Wentz. They've got their guy in Jalen Hurts. Man, does he look good. It's only been a few games in, but I'm a fan of what I'm seeing from Hurts. I like what I see.
Let's see it for a couple games.
He's got some Lamar Jackson to him. He's got not Lamar Jackson speed. I like what I saw. He looked composed. You could tell he wasn't in over his head. Wentz is just, I think, burnt out in Philly. I think that obviously when you see someone take your job the way Foles did and win a Super Bowl, it's kind of hard to come back and retake that job. And, there's got to be a lot of emotions and sour grapes. And I think that Wentz just needs a fresh start, and he's the guy I'm targeting if I'm the Patriots. He's proven how good he can be when he's surrounded by the right talent. The Pats don't have the right talent right now, but if you put a team around him, he can ball. That's who I want.
Wasn't Wentz last year considered like what he was dealing with? He was passing like four like guys off the street last year, and he kept that team together. This year he's taken a step back, obviously. But that contract, like who's going to be paying him that contract? He's owed $50 million in the next 2 years. Like
It's actually not as bad as it looks. Sorry, did I cut? If I cut
no,
something
it's good. You're good.
It's nowhere near as bad as it looks. Essentially, Wentz is actually going to be Philly's eating the majority of this contract. So he's looking at getting paid about 22, 23 million a year going forward. And you have full control over a quarterback. Most of the guaranteed is going to be out of the way. So you're actually, you would have, if you trade for Carson Wentz, you have 2 years of guaranteed dollars. So you basically have to commit to him for 2 years. And then after that, the guarantees are gone and you have him for 2 more years at the club's discretion to cut him. So it's actually a really good situation to trade him in, as much as, it may not be great. He's actually getting paid below the market value, I think, for what he's capable of. And it's a 2-year commitment to him. You could even cut him after year 1 if you really wanted to. But I think it's a very tradable contract and one that many teams, especially those that are quarterback hungry, will be very interested in seeing what they can do with, especially a team like the Patriots who have more cap room than anyone else. So
our team won't be doing that deal. And I'd love that deal. I'd love every deal that we propose. Darnold, I love them all. We're going to end up with another year of Cam Newton and Alex Smith and Josh Rosen and Mike Glennon. And this is Mitch Trubisky, but even he's what, 16 million next year, so probably not. Like, we're going to end up with Case Keenum. We're going to end up with one of these guys for about a couple cool mil.
But we have money next year, and the crazy thing is Alex Smith, for what it is, the Redskins are almost 500. I mean, granted, it's a lot of the defense that's carrying them, and that division's crap.
Freak.
But like he doesn't turn the ball over, and he's one of the best game managers there's been. I like the Carson Wentz idea. I just don't want to trade a first-round pick for him. I'd rather bundle a couple picks, and I don't know what we can do, but maybe eat some of the money. I really want us to draft. We need young, fast defensive players. I'm so sick of these older players that are slow and running in the mud.
You don't like Jawaan Bentley?
Yeah, Jawaan Bentley. I could run a faster 40, and I'm not fast.
I doubt that, but all right.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm kidding.
I know.
Hey, he's been beasting that Peloton over the last couple months. Justin's in prime shape.
Yeah, exactly.
Specimen.
I could probably beat Bill in a 40.
Specimen. Yeah, we'll have Justin doing the Rich Eisen 40-yard dash at some point.
I'd pay money for that. Go to a good cause. I'd pay money for that.
Back in the day in high school baseball, trying to get a double took me like maybe 5 minutes. So I don't see it going any better the past 15 years.
Justin runs like Doug Mirabelli.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think those are pretty good reclamation projects in Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold. It's just whether or not the Pats would actually pony up what it would take to be able to get one of those guys. You got to assume you're probably throwing in a first-round pick. And when's the last time that Bill Belichick's dealt the first-round pick to get that type of talent? We'll have to see. But as we flip it around to, we always have to kind of look in contrast and look at Tom Brady. We always have to look at that after we talk about the Patriots. But Tom Brady going over 30 touchdowns for the first time since 2017. The Bucs are sitting at 8-5, looking like they could probably win out. In my mind, they could probably lose the first week of the playoffs, though. What do you guys think about? What do you guys think about Tom down in Tampa? It's been a month since we've kind of checked in on him. They go to 8-5 after beating the Vikings. What do you kind of see from them the rest of the way?
We're going to see the playoffs.
Go ahead, Alex.
I don't see them going very far in the playoffs. I still don't think they know what their team is. when Ronald Jones is running 20 times a game and Tom Brady's not throwing it 50 times a game, they're better because their defense doesn't get exposed as much as it does. That secondary is atrocious. And Brady, he's looked good, but I mean, with the talent he has, every game I watch, he throws some passes. You're like, what was that? So I don't know. I'll leave it there.
I love the Bucks. I hate myself for loving them, but I love them. I love Tom. I love AB. I love everyone. I love them. They're going to be a tough opponent in the playoffs. They're being battle tested. There's a reason Arians calling out Brady, and it's not for his job. It's because he knows when Tom's pushed, when Tom's getting basically, cornered, that's when Tom's at his best. So
Are you sure it's not because he's a dingus?
well, he might be a little bit of a dingus too. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Bruce Arians was held in very high regards around the league up until this season when he got the GOAT. So you tell me, like, if Bruce Arians has been so highly regarded all this time, why now that he has the GOAT is he being so lowly regarded? In my opinion, I think that this roster, it has what it takes to go out there and get to an NFC championship game. And Tom has what it takes to get them over the hump and into the Super Bowl. So he's done it many times.
Here's the thing. You play football, right? So he was highly regarded as a brilliant offensive mind. He's never been regarded as a winner. And the thing is, Brady shines him in a new light. You said that what would cause people to change the way they look at him because Brady's a winner. And when you look at Bruce Arians in a winning lens, he looks different than when you look at him as a football lens. He's a good offensive football coach, one of the best, probably of his generation. He's not a great head coach. He's not a winning head coach. I don't think he's ever won a playoff game, except for maybe one as interim coach of the Colts. You'd have to correct me on that. But I don't think he has one. And if he does, that's his one as an interim. So that's why people think of him differently. And Brady hasn't looked great. And I want them to go far in the playoffs because, the bigger the balloon, the greater it is when you put a needle to it. But I don't think they're that strong or that resilient, and they're not complementary. That great offensive mind isn't necessarily blending well with that great offensive player in Tom Brady, which he no longer is, but he's still great brilliantly. He's still great between the ears, and he's still above average, skill-wise as a quarterback. I don't mean to always trash him. I love Tom Brady, but he is not the same quarterback, and he didn't buoy a dynasty. He was an integral part in a wonderful machine.
So back when P was here, every year we get the bye week. The following week, the Patriots, they would fix the issues during the bye week, come back and look like a different team. The Bucs looked the same as they did prior to the bye week. The problem is it's not the offensive line's rush blocking, it's the pass blocking. It may got a little bit better this past week, but to think that they fixed their issues because they beat the Vikings, the Vikings are a 500 team.
And should have lost that game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they fixed their issues because they went against the Vikings.
Yeah, if Drew Brees comes back, I don't see them beating the Saints. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, Mahomes is going to win no matter what, but I want Tom to win the whole thing. I do. I'm always love Tom, but this team does not look as good as I thought it would at this point in the season.
No, it definitely doesn't, and it feels like it's almost like a different team week to week. It's like they get smashed one week, then they smash a team the next week. It's seems like in order for them to make it deep in the playoffs, they would really have to get hot and stay hot. Almost have to be like the Tom Brady that was going against Kansas City in the playoffs a couple of years ago. And I just don't know if that's that sustainable. I feel like it's also been an interesting situation where Gronk is the guy who almost has the most amount of receiving yards for them. For all the weapons that you thought they were getting, their leading receiver has 669 yards this year. It's it's just an interesting offense. It seems like 1 week Brady's throwing for 196 yards. The next week he's throwing for 340. They're beating up on teams, then getting beat up the next week. We saw him play the Rams and the Chiefs and lose both those games. They come back and win against the Vikings. They won against their recent wins have been against the Vikings, the Giants. I mean, they really haven't beat anyone that's been that battle tested in quite a few weeks. So I think they're going to have to get pretty hot and stay hot. And I do think that Bruce Arians looks like, he looks like a complete idiot for just continuing to to question Brady and just take no accountability for the lot. I mean, he just seems to ride the wins and then put everything on Brady when they lose.
Is Arians going to be ousted, you think? Like, I feel like he's riding Brady hard because he's giving Brady so much rope to do what he wants. Like, Brady wants to be calling the plays. So to me, it's like, what is he going to do? Not ride Brady when he's not calling the right plays? Maybe he has an offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich he really believes in. And Bruce Arians obviously has been regarded as a great offensive coach himself. Obviously, Tom Brady's the GOAT. You kind of got to let Tom do what Tom wants to do. But when things aren't going well, I can understand where Arians is coming from.
So it's funny. I feel like Brady for years, Belichick would bash him in the during the week with practice and watching game film, but he never really did it in the media. And I think Tom was expecting open arms. Bruce is just going to love me. And Bruce, it's the same thing, but Bruce goes to the media with it. I bet you Tom Brady wishes he would go the Belichick route so it wasn't exposed in the media as much and making stories about it. But yeah, it's just odd that Bruce Arians just throws all of the blame. And another thing is, why is Todd Bowles the defensive coordinator of this team? Like, what did he do with the Jets for years? This defense, the front seven is good, but that secondary is so damn bad. Like, there's not a chance in hell that you feel confident that defense will be able to hold up throughout against a good offense like the Packers. That's the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, Justin. I thought you were done.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, they have all first-year players and second-year players in their secondary. It's not a secret. Some of these guys have great potential. Antoine Winfield Jr., love him. Love the kid. Love what I'm seeing from him. I don't understand how you don't go out and you pick up an Earl Thomas or someone else. Yes, he's got not the best track record, but neither does Antonio Brown. If you're going to go all in with Antonio Brown, might as well bring in Earl Thomas to help fortify that secondary, because that front seven is actually pretty damn good on the Bucs. So I feel like they have some GMing to do. This might not be their year, but I expect them to look pretty decent. I don't think they're going to go in the playoffs and get blown out.
What's their record since Antonio Brown got there?
Not good. It's probably like 500.
I'm not saying he's done anything wrong, but it's less passes for Godwin, less passes for Evans. They're not as involved. They're not rushing as much. I'm just saying.
They need to run the ball and score first. The Bucs simply can't play from behind only because they don't have the chemistry to work smoothly as an offense.
Mm-hmm.
But Ronald Jones is what, 6th in the league in rushing? And they have a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a wide receiver with Hall of Fame talent, and a Pro Bowler. So they've got all the talent. They need to score first. They need to run the ball a little bit more and do play action, because both Arians and Brady love play action, even if the rest of their schemes are different.
True.
Yeah, so we had probably the most entertaining game in this NFL season last night in the Ravens versus the Browns. The Ravens coming out on top. Lamar Jackson with perhaps a Paul Pierce moment there, going into the locker room, and rumors have it that he took a poop, but he came out and was able to put them over the top. And two teams that are looking pretty good here are the Browns and the Bills. The Bills giving the Steelers their second straight loss, and it seems like the Steelers really don't have what it takes to. They just can't make explosive plays because Ben Roethlisberger can't throw down the field anymore. And that really seems to be an issue for them. Let's hit on the game from last night and then kind of toss it around to the Bills and the Steelers. But what are your big takeaways from last night? Do you guys think the Browns are legit?
No. God, no. No. That was wicked exciting. And if anything, it makes me think that the Ravens are less legitimate than I previously thought. The Browns have a quarterback who, though he looked good last night, can't throw the ball into tight windows. And they get too excited, and they decide that they're not the best running football team in the league sometimes. If you could guarantee me they'll run the ball 28 times a game, my answer might be yes. But I have no faith in that, and I just don't trust Baker.
Isn't that what the offense has really become though since Odell left? Like
Yeah. Yep.
and that's what they have to be. They have two of probably top 15 backs in the league. They have a great offensive line. Baker just doesn't. If he's a great play action quarterback. That's what he is. The defense is what scares me about them. But if they run the ball a lot, they control the clock. They can make it happen. And last night, Lamar Jackson coming back, that was huge and throwing that pass. But that defensive play coverage, like what was that? Like they just let Marquise Brown run open for 50 yards. It was a 4th and 8, and they just played for Lamar to run. I do think the Browns have a decent chance of getting maybe to the AFC Championship game if they run the ball. I think they have a better chance now than the Steelers did a couple weeks ago because the Steelers have no running game, and Ben's arm, I don't know what's going on with it. Defense is elite, but it's really going to come down to matchup. Whoever doesn't have to play Kansas City in the second round, that's the one that's going to go to the championship game.
I believe in the Browns offense. I don't believe in their defense. I think their ability to run the ball. Baker's been, as advertised, after that first year. He doesn't even have Odell out there, and he looked pretty damn good on offense last night against a good defense. The Ravens' defense is not a bad defense, and I think they're a middle of the road defense this year, really. But still, I mean, Baker put up a lot of points there. Like you look at their defense, though, and if you can't stop someone, if you can't make stops on defense, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. You need to have a defense to win a championship. It's just not going to work out. So I do think they're pretenders overall, but I like the offense.
And guys, the Steelers were everybody is kind of pick. They slowly came on with that defense, and obviously the loss of Bud Dupree is pretty big, but the Steelers kind of came on and were everyone's pick to probably maybe make the Super Bowl or at least make it to the AFC Championship game. They take a couple straight losses. They seem like they don't have any type of dynamic down the field throwing ability. Deontay Johnson doesn't seem to be able to catch the ball that well recently. What do we think for the Steelers headed the rest of the way? Because things do not look promising over the last couple weeks.
Their offensive line seems to have gotten either old really fast or hurt. And I honestly, I should have checked right before the show. I apologize for that. But I don't think they can't make plays down the field. I think they can't run the ball. And so they're stuck in this perpetual, we have to use the passing game to set up the run. We have to use the passing game to set up the run. And their offensive line just isn't holding blocks long right now. And I think it's become more of overcompensating. I don't think their pass rush is quite as elite. I think there's way too much coverage slanted TJ Watt's way since Bud Dupree went down. They were minus Joe Hayden last game. And they've had cracks all season because James Conner hasn't been able to stay healthy, and they weren't great running the ball earlier, but they could run the ball early in the season. If they can figure that out, they'll be fine. Their defense is still elite and good enough. It's not quite as good or elite, but it's still there. And I don't think Ben's arm has fallen off. I think he can still throw the ball down the field. It's just they can't run the ball, and they're compensating by having a short passing game.
The good thing is that they lost you 2 games now, right? I mean, they were undefeated. I'm sure they would rather lose these games now. It hasn't been pretty, obviously. But they have time to figure it out. Their defense is still, I think, the best in the league. But they need to figure out the running game. If they can't run the ball, they're screwed because the defenses are just going to play against the pass. And, I don't know what happened to Chase Claypool. He was lighting it up, and all of a sudden he's not getting targets anymore. I don't really know what's going on in that offense. It's questionable, but hopefully they have enough time to figure it out.
2 points. Deontay Johnson will be fine. Early wide receivers sometimes have the yips. I know wide receivers nowadays seem to come in ready-made out of the box, but Jerry Rice had drops early in his career. And as for you can't win a championship without a defense, you're still right. And that's been my take forever, but we're moving away from that. In every sport, except for probably hockey, we're kind of moving away from that.
Yeah. So I mean, to flip the page, I mean, let's just before we hit on the NBA, is anybody going to knock off the Colts? And is anybody going to overtake Patrick Mahomes in the possible MVP race? I don't see anybody being able to beat the Chiefs with their big playability, with the way Mahomes is throwing. I mean, he just seems to be able to throw 60-yard passes on a dime off his back foot. He's in such sync with Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce is leading the league in receiving. You know, it just seems like an unstoppable force over there in Kansas City. Is anybody going to knock them off? And is anybody going to, take the MVP from Mahomes?
I think Aaron Rodgers. I think it's Aaron Rodgers' year. Mahomes, yes, they won last week, but that whole team that's a great team he's on. And we're looking at, a situation in Green Bay where they gave him no help this offseason. They drafted a quarterback and they drafted a running back, both of which haven't really done anything for them. And Aaron Rodgers is out there just throwing dimes, picking apart defenses. He looks incredible. He's turned back the clock. He's the MVP this year, and his numbers look better than Mahomes, in my opinion. So that's right.
Wait, hold on. His numbers look better, in my opinion. Can't possibly be a legitimate sentence. The numbers look better, in my opinion. I'm sorry. I had to pick that apart. That's not even a rebuttal. I couldn't let that stand.
Well, he's at 3,685 yards, 39 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions so far this year. So he's doing pretty good.
Also, you said he turned back the clock. Turned back the clock to what? He had a good year last year. He did. He won 13 games, and what was he, 29-4? Like, he was good last year too. He's got the highest.
He's had a much better year this year, though. I'd say.
Yep, absolutely.
Mahomes, meanwhile, has 4,208 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions so far this year. So
I feel like the Chiefs the past couple weeks in games, they just get bored. They're like, all right, let's see how many points we can try to make this interesting and come back from in the fourth quarter. Like it's not even like, it's just like a joke to them recently.
It is.
The thing that I feel like Mahomes is going to get the MVP. And unfortunately, in the AFC, there's no quarterback in the AFC, I feel like, that can keep up with Mahomes in a playoff game in Kansas City. It's going to have to be in the NFC, whether it be Rodgers or Brady. I want the Steelers to get there. It's just I don't know what's happened to the run game, and that's what you need against the Chiefs. You need to keep Mahomes off the field. And if you can't run the ball, you're not keeping him off the field. That's what the Patriots used to do to Manning year in, year out, and they can't do that right now. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like if Mahomes retired today, he would make the Hall of Fame. I mean, like, this guy has had, it's going to be another 5,000-yard passing season for him. The only reason he missed 5,000 last year was because he was injured. This guy would have had 3 straight 5,000-yard passing seasons to start his career out. Literally doesn't throw interceptions. If you take away the 3 picks that he threw in this game, he would have only had 2 on the season going into it. I mean, obviously, that's a big if, and Xavier Howard makes a big pick. But, Patrick Mahomes, it's just like he's going down the field. It feels like he's only throwing to Tyreek Hill when he knows he can throw a touch. Like Justin kind of said, they're playing games. It's like he's only throwing to Tyreek Hill when he knows he can score a touchdown almost. It's like 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. It's just unbelievable what those guys are doing. One other guy that's really smoking things too is Derrick Henry. I mean, the guy just runs straight, and he ran for like 215 yards. Like, guys are unable to tackle this guy, especially defensive backs. Derrick Henry, with 1,500 yards already on the season, had 1,500 yards to lead the league last year. I know we never give a lot of MVP consideration to backs, but I mean, Derrick Henry has got to be somebody that you consider for the MVP this year.
Yeah, he's having an amazing year. Unfortunately, it'll never go to a running back. And I know Peterson did get it a couple years ago, right?
That was what, 2012?
Yeah.
So you have to tear your ACL and then rush for 2,000 yards. That's the way to do it for that position.
But also that year, there wasn't many other, like there was no Mahomes.
Peyton Manning had a great year.
Yeah, Peyton Manning did have a good year that year.
Yeah.
Peyton had a great year, trust.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'm wrong. I don't see it going to anyone but Mahomes.
So Rodgers having more touchdown passes and less interceptions and a higher quarterback rating does nothing for you guys, with less offensive weapons and talent than Mahomes has in KC?
I've seen Aaron Rodgers tapped out of a game this year. I've yet to see Mahomes tapped out of a game. That doesn't mean lose a game. I mean tapped out. I mean he was up 10-0, and then you couldn't find him with an Amber Alert.
Against
For the rest of that Bucs game, you couldn't find him.
Are we just forgetting that he has his running back is one of the top 5 running back in the league?
And then he has a top 3 receiver. This year, he's a top 1 receiver.
Yeah, but I mean, Tyreek Hill is top 3 too.
He's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. I don't want to hear about Aaron Jones right now.
Why? Aaron Jones has been better than both of them the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Why
Aaron
don't
Jones-
you want to hear about a guy who's rushed for 30 touchdowns in 2 years? Like, what do you? Hey, let me ask you a question. You say that Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Who has more yards and touchdowns? The both of those guys or Aaron Jones the last 2 years?
Aaron Jones, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire literally just got to the NFL, and Le'Veon Bell.
So who has more combined yards this
the
year?
worst team in football?
So who has more combined yards this year?
Yeah, but if you include Hilaire's stats in high school and this year, we're good.
LSU stats were pretty good.
He also hasn't been as good as I thought he was going to be. He's good, but
Well, Lev Bell's
tore
eating
it
into
up.
his carries. Lev Bell's eating into his carries. He
Le'Veon
started
Bell
off.
looks average at best.
He looks better than average. That's not true. It's a misnomer. It's a mischaracterization, if you ask me. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has looked good. That's an offense that it's very basketball-like. They are very flip the switch type. They're very lazy. That offense is very lazy. Until they need to score, until they turn it over or the other team scores, they seem to just dick around with it for a long time. But once they get going, I've never seen a football team score more in the NFL. I've never seen a professional football team score more points faster. Not even in the Arena League. When they just decide they're unguardable, it's 28 unanswered.
That's why the Steelers need to figure out the running game. If they can do it, their defense can disrupt what's going on and keep Mahomes off the field. Maybe he makes a couple interceptions. The only other team that could make it somewhat a game would be the Titans because of their rushing game, but their defense is atrocious. It has to be the Steelers, or it's just going to be a cakewalk in the Super Bowl.
Well, Frank, you talking about that NBA-like offense at Kansas City is going to be a perfect way for us to transition into our next topic. We're going to just get into it with the NBA. So much to talk about. We'll start out with the Celtics, who, for my money, bring in 2 guys that finally really address the needs that they had. I feel like the last couple of years, Danny really hasn't made a move to kind of fill holes, and they bring in 2 guys in Tristan Thompson, who's going to just grab about 10 rebounds a night and probably grab about 5 offensive. You know, a guy that's just going to be able to plug in there and get boards and be able to outlet that to some of their shooters. They really haven't had a guy, you know, they've had guys that can space the floor and all that, but just getting a real rebounder in there. And then Jeff Teague, who with Kemba Walker's injury and, injury history going into this year, with Marcus Smart not being, the best point guard or best guy that you want facilitating things. I think you really brought in 2 guys that are going to help pick up a lot of slack for this team. And I think the Celtics are, not the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference, but looking pretty good with their offseason acquisitions. What do you guys think about who they added and what they might need or what else they might need for, to be a contender this year?
I feel like they need another scorer. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
No, yeah, sorry. I didn't think anyone was going to speak, so I was going for it. Sorry, Justin.
Okay.
We got better. I think that we got way better. Hayward's injury history has been a thorn in our side as Celtics fans, to say the least. I just didn't see – I know he was injured in the playoffs, but I just didn't see that much from him. I think that Tristan Thompson, I think Jeff Teague are going to be better complementary pieces to this offense. We have the young wings in Romeo Langford and Naismith. We have a guy in Peyton Pritchard who Danny Ainge was extremely excited to get. Young bulldog type player that can hit deep threes. Sign me up. I'm in the Peyton Pritchard fan club. He's our team mascot. Put a leprechaun costume on the kid. Let's go. I love what we've done. I think that we're set up to be contenders for the next 5 years. Tatum's taking another leap this year. Brown's taking another leap this year. Celtics are being slept on once again. You will see them in the Eastern Conference Finals this year.
In a vacuum, I love the Teague move. I think he's an incredibly underrated player and a really, really good point guard. Getting him tells me that they're worried about Kemba, which, because we have so much money tied into him, worries the absolute crap out of me. So I don't like the two things together. I don't like Kemba still being here and us getting Teague. I don't like both those things together. Tristan, necessary. Absolutely necessary. Been necessary for years. You said if he gets 10 rebounds, with nobody else on his team fighting for rebounds, he should be getting 15 a game. And you hit the nail on the head earlier about a handful of offensive rebounds a game.
Yeah, I mean, Kemba being hurt, I mean, he sat out how many months at the end of the season, and he still wasn't fully healthy going into the bubble. He had some games that were good, but the only way this team makes it to that next step and makes it against a Milwaukee is if Kemba's elite. If not, then we need another scorer. And I don't know what they're going to do with that trade exception, but they need to get another veteran scorer, not another young player. We need another veteran scorer. I don't know who that is. I like the kid out of Vanderbilt because he can shoot, unlike any other Celtics players that we usually draft. We usually draft the guy that is athletic, that can't shoot. But the Tristan Thompson move, to me, was such an underrated move that in the NBA that no one talked about. We have not had a rebounder at center since Kendrick Perkins. Like, we've seen the worst. I mean, Daniel Tice is a good role player. He's great for the system, but we need that guy to get offensive and defensive rebounds. He's a good passer, and he's that missing piece, but we need another offensive weapon to get us past Milwaukee, I think.
Do we? Let me ask you a question. I think we need more shooting. I'm not sure we need more scoring because, again, if we're going to be a championship team with this core, it's because Tatum is somewhere between 28 and 30, and it's because Brown has also taken that next step. If Tatum is 30 and Brown is somewhere between 20 and 25, we don't need a whole lot of other scoring if we have shooters and guards who can set up other plays in the pick and roll.
I'm talking about a guy like a JJ Redick type to come off the bench and hit a couple threes. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking
That's
for
what Naismith is. That's who Naismith is. I think that we're going to make a trade. I fully trust Danny to use that exception. The only question is, what young players are we going to have to trade away with that trade exception? Who's going to have to go?
Trade them all.
Honestly, I mean,
get rid of them all.
I want the young guy. I want to build for the
You want to keep Romeo Langford, Justin?
Is Yabusele still around? Can we trade him?
Yeah. I would trade Romeo Langford happily with his bunk jump shot. Happily get rid of Langford. Plays good defense, but he could be good bait for another team that's willing to give us a great piece. So we'll see.
Can he be?
Yeah, exactly.
We think these people are trade pieces.
Exactly.
But for the last 5 years, you know what we've learned? They're not. They're really not. You know when they were tradable? When Danny wouldn't trade them. And now that he's made all these picks and has basically assembled two different rosters, nobody wants these assets.
You know what's funny? We have the best G League team in the NBA, and there's no G League this year. Like, where's Taco Fall playing?
They just need to add LiAngelo now to the G League team.
Yes.
Detroit dropped him.
Give me the special ball, brother.
Well, guys, I don't know if you remember the last time we were on, actually, we almost dropped breaking news in James Harden potentially going. It seemed like there was rumors, actually, that he had gone to the New Jersey Nets. We were like about to break it. There were like kind of whispers. That obviously hasn't ended up happening just yet. But reports are that he hates the coach that the Rockets hired. He wanted Ty Lue. I don't know why he wanted that puppet anyway, but he's not happy with Silas, the coach that they have in the wings there. He's been holding out. It seems like he's not going to come back. He's not happy with the Wall addition and the Wall swap. Where do you guys see him going? I mean, for my money, I think the Nets probably have the most amount of pieces to be able to make a trade.
The answer logically is the Nets for those reasons. They have the most assets. They have young players and picks, both of which they can absolutely part ways with and not have it hurt them or their future, considering how young their core would then be. The answer on court is the Sixers. I mean, Harden is someone that can on the court take Embiid to the next level. Embiid is someone who it's shit or get off the pot time. Either he is a top 5 player in this league or he isn't. Either he's going to be in shape and take this game seriously, or he's not. We're past all the injury concerns. It's now about his mentality and whether or not he cares to be everything that his ceiling indicates he can be. And Harden is the guy to push him.
So I wanted to say 76ers, but I can't because you did. An under-radar team, I think, potentially could be in the works. How about Denver Nuggets? How many good young players do they have? You had someone like a James Harden. That makes Denver Nuggets pretty legit. I mean, they already are legit, but I mean, they really don't want to trade Michael Porter Jr.
Don't do it. Don't do, if you're the Nuggets.
Thinking young players, I mean, the Heat have some good. The 76ers are the best answer. I don't see them going to the Nets because honestly, why would they do that? You're already gonna have a dilemma with the 2 biggest head cases in the NBA. Then you had this dickhead coming in and tearing up the strip clubs in Brooklyn.
Can I try to answer that? Because of Terry Rozier. Kyrie Irving will not work with those 2 young guards. It only worked with them when he wasn't healthy. He'll look good on the court and that team will win games, but inevitably, those young players can't stay on that roster. Durant and Kyrie Irving need specialists just like LeBron needs specialists. Today's NBA athlete doesn't necessarily need better basketball players around them as much as they need ball washers and guys who are willing to play their role. Like LeVert's a budding, potentially superstar NBA player, and he's not going to be held down by them, and Kyrie's not going to let him get his shine. That works in the NFL. It doesn't work in the NBA.
I'll tell you who I want him to go to. I want him on the Bucks. I want him with the guy who he's openly hated. I want him with the other MVP of the past 3 years. Harden and Giannis, get them on a team together. Ship Middleton out. Your big 3 is then Giannis, Drew Holiday, and James Harden. That's a pretty damn good threesome. And I will take that over Chris Middleton all day. Middleton's the piece they can dangle. You dangle Middleton, you dangle a few of the other young pieces, some draft picks, and you ship that out to Houston. Who says no there?
Houston, because they could get Brooklyn and get a bunch of those young players, or they could get Ben Simmons.
Yeah, Houston. Houston says no.
Yeah, it sounds great on paper. I want it to happen too. The Nets have the most to offer, but I don't see it happening because Kyrie Irving, like you said, I don't know. I just don't see it happening. I mean, he's already not talking to the media this year. Durant's going to slowly come back. I don't care how good of friends they are. I don't see it ever working. I don't.
Oh, they're obviously going to fight. I think there's no question about that. You've already heard rumors that Kyrie Irving is saying that he wants to get 10 post touches a game this year. And him and Durant have already gone back and forth in the media, kind of Durant questioning how many post touches, like saying that he should only get like 2 post touches a game or something like that. And the first game that they lose where one of those guys misses a game-winning shot, they are absolutely going to be feuding with each other. And I cannot wait for that to happen. I think Kyrie's not happy no matter where he plays. At this point in his career, he was the number 1 shot taker on a Cleveland team that was winning championships with the best player in the world. He got his young team in Boston and pretty much had a team that they were building around him. And then even last year, he had he had a coach of the year candidate in Kenny Atkinson. He had a couple of young guys and, obviously couldn't make that work and didn't want to play through his injury because he didn't have his binky Durant. I think it's going to get pretty ugly pretty quick. And I could see Harden going there just because those 2 guys are the type of guys that want to get bailed out by somebody else. Like they don't want to do all the effort. I mean, we already saw Durant. He should have stayed with Oklahoma City and tried to win a championship there by having the Warriors on the ropes. And he's already kind of chosen his legacy. I could see Harden going there because they want to just group up the most stars and try to win it that way.
But was his decision that bad looking at it now? I mean, he won 2 championships. He won an MVP. He was the best player on that team. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't hope anyone gets hurt, but say Kyrie Irving gets hurt and Kevin Durant becomes the focal point for like a month or two.
Oh, I'd love that.
Kevin Durant's team now. What's Kyrie
If
going to
Durant's
do?
the reason they win,
What are you going
and
to do?
Kyrie Irving hurt or something.
You're going to fire Steve Nash too because he used to fire every coach. God, he's the biggest cancer in the NBA. It's unbelievable. He's so much fun to watch, but he's such a cancer wherever he goes.
I
He's
think if
definitely
anything,
bipolar.
the Nets should just get out of Kyrie now while the stock's high, trade him out to Houston, get Harden back for him, and just be happier out of Kyrie town. Like
They
get
wouldn't have
out.
got Durant if they didn't sign Kyrie. They were
Yeah, that's
back
fine,
in
but
the
guess
Yeah, but
what?
they have Durant.
With a contract now, they can do whatever they want to him.
Agreed. They
I mean-
wouldn't have gotten Durant without Irving. They have Durant. Do everything you can to move off Irving. I like the
Yeah.
suggestion. Much
Yeah.
like your trade offer earlier, it's not going to happen, but it's ideal. That would be ideal for them.
Let's not forget they have DeAndre Jordan still, their boy, 40 mil for 4 years, the backup center.
Yeah, Jared Allen gets better stats in half the minutes than DeAndre Jordan too. By the way.
Yeah.
So looking around the league, I mean, the Houston is an interesting team because they have a couple of reclamation projects in John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. There's a lot of guys that are coming back from injuries this year. Do you guys think that that John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins get anywhere close to their prior form before they had injuries over the past 2 years, or do you think they're kind of cooked?
I'm a big optimism guy. I like that the two Kentucky guys are together. They've wanted to play together for a long time. I think that they're both very highly committed to this season working out. It looks like James Harden starting to come around. He's showing up to the Houston events. I don't think they're going to trade Harden just yet. If there's a Harden trade, I think it's going to come after this year, just to be real. And I think that those two are going to bring a lot to the table in this offense. Wall was a great player before his injuries. It's been a tough 2 years for him, but I think that he's going to come back strong. I think we're going to see a lot of great play out of John Wall. Christian Wood, by the way, another great big that the Houston Rockets brought in. I really like that team, and I think they got better. Some people think they got worse. I think they got better. I hate Russell Westbrook as an actual winning basketball player. Love him, love his heart, but he's not someone that, in my opinion, is a real winner. I'd rather have Wall than Westbrook as my point guard.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
John Wall is going to ball out. He's going to be fantastic this year. I'm not worried about injuries at all. Neither one of them is a winner, but Russell Westbrook could take a surrounding cast of YMCA players to the playoffs in the West. John Wall couldn't get the Wizards to the playoffs in the East with Bradley Beal as the second best player. So no, they are not alike. I would love to sit here and have any faith whatsoever in DeMarcus Cousins, but I don't. He's a big man who tore his ACL or who tore his Achilles. Well, he tore both, but the Achilles is the one that I'm actually worried about. And he was a big boy. I mean, he was a top 7 player in the league. I mean, he was legitimate, and he's not going to be that. Now the question becomes, what Dwight Howard is doing now? What is DeMarcus Cousins' version of that? Because he's a better shooter, he's a better passer, and he actually has post moves. So what is his version of a broken down version of himself? If he can be so much as like 15 and 8, that's nowhere near what he was, but that's good enough for him to be a welcoming addition for Houston.
I agree. The biggest problem is Cousins. I don't think he'll ever have a full season ever again. And it's so sad because when he played, he was a man amongst boys. It was unreal. And he was like one of the first big men of his size and power that could shoot, and his finesse and pass. But his injury is just, I don't see it happening. And the difference between him and Howard is they have a completely different offensive game. Howard gets offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, where Cousins sometimes stays at the 3-point line. They're different players. If Harden leaves, this team's going to be a bottom of the cellar, bottom of the Western Conference this year. I don't know who else is off their bench. Is Joe Green still there? Is PJ Tucker? Is he their backup center? Like is Austin Rivers is gone? Who's on that team? Ben McLemore? John Wall is going to have a really good year, and so is Russell Westbrook, and neither of them are going to make the playoffs.
All right. So, what about flipping the page to a couple of rookies? You got Anthony Edwards out there in Minnesota. That was a little bit of a surprise to me, them taking him number one. LaMelo Ball, obviously playing in Charlotte. What do you guys think for LaMelo Ball? Is he going to be a ball that can actually shoot at the next level? He's looked pretty good so far in the preseason, but we've seen so many guys look good in the preseason, and we know that you're pretty much playing scrubs, and most of your main guys aren't going to get a ton of minutes. He had a bunch of rebounds the other night, but was like a plus-minus of 17. Do you think he's going to be able to shoot at the next level? And what are your expectations out of LaMelo Ball as a rookie this year?
I love LaMelo. Give me all LaMelo Ball stock you can. He has the it factor. He looks awesome out there. He has so much more. He has what Lonzo has defensively and offensively passing wise, but he has so much more because his skill at scoring is like off the charts. I love what I'm seeing from LaMelo so far. Yes, he didn't have a big game in his second preseason game. He's going to be just fine. I can't believe the Wolves didn't take him over Anthony Edwards. That shocked me. But it is what it is. The Wolves are going to wolf. And yeah, Nick Smith, LaMelo, bye, everyone. Everyone's with the LaMelo Ball stock. Are you guys?
No, listen, your question was, can he be a ball that can shoot? He will shoot in NBA games, not at a very high percentage, but he will shoot in NBA games. So yes, no, on a more serious note, bro, he's got the it factor. He's Lonzo Ball with balls. He's got a winning quotient that I don't think either of his brothers have. But he's not going to be a great shooter. He's got, and when you said he's got what Lonzo has defensively, I think you mean potentially. Neither one has ever been a great defensive player, though they both have length and size and instincts. And because they're great in the passing lanes, they choose not to play straight up lockdown man defense. But if they can add that to their game and be, the gift of Magic Johnson, great. But he's not going to be an elite shooter. And I'm not for this preseason hype because Lonzo Ball was player of the year, his rookie year in the preseason, right? And then went on to not be a very good offensive player in the NBA.
I was literally just going to say that. Frank, thank you. Does anyone remember the highlights of Lonzo throwing the half-court passes to Kuzma in the preseason? Trust me, obviously he's the best ball brother, at least offensively. But what I'm seeing is the same thing I saw in Lonzo Ball in that preseason. I think he's going to be the franchise player unless our boy Terry Rozier steps in. And I don't even know why he's there anymore because Graham's a better player than he is too. It's going to be interesting. I think he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, unfortunately, just because of there's too many people on that team. Anthony Edwards is going to be a good player. I don't want anyone to think that he's not. I think James Wiseman is going to be the best player out of the three over his NBA career. But Anthony Edwards is going to be a really good player too.
One thing before we progress, LaMelo Ball, until he has somewhat of a spectacular NBA game, needs to be LaMelo. The name Melo belongs to a different NBA player. And regardless of the fact that he might also be a loser, he was a really good NBA player.
How many games into the season does wait till LeVar calls Michael Jordan and says, you got to play my son more. You got to sign LiAngelo. You got to do this. You got to do that.
He can't get through to Michael Jordan.
He could beat him in a one-on-one game.
I think LaMelo's tried to distance himself pretty far from, obviously he didn't do his dad's shoes. And, I think that he's tried to distance himself a little bit after some of the overseas management that LeVar Ball had with those guys. But I don't know if he'll be able to get through to Michael Jordan. I feel like that probably would have already happened if it was gonna.
Yeah.
If Frank Kaminsky couldn't, there's no way LeVar Ball can.
It's just amazing that Michael Jordan wanted to sign Hayward, though. It's like they were paying $30 million last year to Nick Batum, who was averaging like 3 points a game. They get rid of that contract and they bring in another guy that's been injured over the past couple of years. Obviously Hayward, I'm not saying he can't shoot, not saying he can't grab rebounds. He could still put up 15 and 7, but Not paying $30 million for that over 4 years.
Xavier Payne.
They're still paying Biombo too, right? He's still on the team. Biombo.
Why would any bad personnel decision about Michael Jordan surprise you? This man drafted Kwame Brown and Adam Morrison. What? Like, you should never be surprised when he makes a bad.
Yes, Adam
GM
Morrison.
decision.
He was an all-time player.
According to his own teammates, he smelled bad. Never mind that he's a bust. The guy didn't have good hygiene. Stop it.
Not only that, he turned down multiple first-round picks from us because we wanted Justice Winslow, and they drafted Frank Kaminsky instead.
I know that was
Is
insane.
that the Giannis draft?
That they turned down all those picks and then they don't even take the guy Justice Winslow at that spot. They take Frank Kaminsky.
You watch Frank Kaminsky at Wisconsin, like, okay, he's going to be a decent role player. He can't move. He's got some offensive skill, but wait till you play some NBA players, and he's been nothing but a bust his entire career.
I know Frank Kaminsky is on like a different team every year.
He's a poor man's Dario Saric. He's that bad.
He's a poor man's Doug McDermott.
Can you
Doug
imagine?
McDermott.
Can you imagine Danny Ainge offered all the Brooklyn picks for the chance to draft Justice Winslow, and the Hornets said no because they wanted Frank Kaminsky?
You know, we'd have about the same. Oh, never mind. We have Tatum from that. I'm never. Nope. That joke's off the table.
And the fact that he actually took Justice Winslow.
By the way, Jeff Teague has 9 points in 13 minutes so far. Liking this.
Gotta love it.
Yep.
6 Man of the Year candidate? I think so.
Who's he playing against? LiAngelo Ball? LiAngelo's going to be LeVar's butler his whole life.
LiAngelo is he'll lead the league in tattoos. That's about it.
We'll go play for Stephon Marbury's team in China.
That team wins. So we're clear. That team is winning. It's a good shout out. Stephon Marbury is like a top 4 Chinese basketball player of all time. He's on a team
Didn't
with
they
Yao,
make
by
a
the way.
statue of Stephon Marbury over there or something?
Yeah, he's on a team with Yao, and they just dominate the entire league because
Wait,
they're two
Yao's
former
playing
NBA
basketball again?
Yes. Yao still plays in China.
How is that fair? Those two? Like, who are they playing against?
Who cares? I didn't do that much research. I can't dig that far down the wormhole.
I mean, didn't Wanamaker play there? He was probably a star, too.
Wanamaker should still be there.
Javier Pena says, bring LiAngelo to Boston. I mean, it's definitely a candidate. I'd say it's probably going to be more like Maine, though, to the Red Claws.
Can he shoot better than, like, Semi Ojeleye?
Oh, God, he's still here. Ojeleye.
Exactly. So it's not like we don't have dispensable spots at the end of our bench.
Well, guys, it's great to be back. Another show in the books. We appreciate everybody tuning in. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll catch you next week from our remote locations. And tune in. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday, boys.